I found my hero's signature on a document that declared 3 soldiers never existed. The handwriting was unmistakable. I had seen it on commendations, on transfer orders, on the letter she wrote when I made officer. Now it sat at the bottom of a reclassification form, turning training deaths into administrative closures, turning people into problems solved. Let me rewind. 4 weeks earlier, I was assigned to audit training records, routine program review, the kind of task that makes your eyes glaze over by lunch. I expected typos and filing errors. I did not expect to find ghosts. My commander handed me a stack of binders on a Tuesday and told me to cross-reference discharge rosters against safety summaries. Simple work. I set up in a corner office with bad coffee and a window that overlooked the training facility courtyard. I figured I would be done in a week. I was wrong. Day 3. A soldier listed as discharged for medical reasons in one document, but completely absent from the discharge roster. No exit interview, no forwarding address, no signature, just a name. And a date, floating in the middle of a safety summary like it had been dropped there by accident. I made a note. Probably a clerical error. The second red flag came the next morning. I walked past the memorial plaque in the training facility hallway on my way to grab lunch. I had passed it 100 times before, but this time I stopped. The names etched into the brass looked familiar. I pulled out my phone and checked the photos I had taken of the safety summaries. 3 names on that plaque did not appear in any official casualty report. They were there, honored in metal, but erased from the records. That is when my stomach started to turn. I went back to the binders. I started pulling every safety summary from the last 5 years. I cross-referenced them against discharge rosters, casualty logs, memorial records, anything I could find. The pattern emerged slowly. Soldiers listed as training fatalities in early drafts, then reclassified in later versions. Cause of death changed from training accident to administrative closure. No explanation, no follow-up. Just a signature at the bottom of each reclassification form. The same signature. Every time. I knew that handwriting. I had admired it. I had framed a letter with that signature and hung it on my wall. The general who had mentored me, who had made me believe I belonged in uniform, who had told me that integrity was the only currency that mattered. Her name was on every single form. I did not sleep that night. I kept thinking about the plaque, about the families who had been told their loved ones died in training, only to have those deaths quietly erased from official records, about the soldiers who had trusted the system to honor their sacrifice, only to be reclassified into silence. I needed to be sure. I requested a meeting with the general under the pretense of clarifying audit procedures. She agreed immediately. She even offered coffee. That made it worse. Her office was exactly as I remembered. Clean desk, framed photos of training graduations, a small flag in the corner. She greeted me with a warm smile and gestured to a chair across from her. She asked how the audit was going. I said it was fine, just a few questions about the reclassification process. She did not flinch. She leaned back in her chair and explained that some reporting adjustments were necessary to protect operational details. She said the families were supported, that they had been compensated, but that full disclosure could harm unit morale. She said it like it was policy, like it was reasonable. I asked if the families knew the truth. She paused, just for a second. Then she said the families were compensated, and that further details would only cause them pain. She said it was better this way, cleaner, kinder even. I realized something in that moment. She was not protecting the program. She was protecting herself. Every justification was wrapped in the language of progress, but it was rooted in ego, in reputation, in the fear that her legacy would be stained, by a handful of training accidents that happened on her watch. I told her I had documented the discrepancies. I told her I would be filing a formal report with oversight. Her expression shifted. The warmth drained from her face like water from a cracked glass. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to something quiet and sharp. She told me this decision would end my career. She said I was young, that I did not understand how these things worked, that there were consequences for officers who could not see the bigger picture. I told her some careers are not worth keeping. She did not say anything after that. She just stared at me. I stood up, thanked her for her time, and walked out. Within a week, an internal review was initiated. The general faced scrutiny, meetings behind closed doors, questions from people higher up the chain. I do not know all the details. I was not invited to those conversations. I was transferred to a non-command role, a desk job in a different building. No explanation, no ceremony. Just new orders and a new office with no window. I stood in the training facility hallway one last time before I left. I looked at the memorial plaque, at the names that had been invisible in the official records. They were no longer overlooked. The review had brought them back into the light, not because of me, because the truth does not need a hero to defend it. It just needs someone willing to stop looking away. Truth does not need a hero. I think about those names sometimes. I think about the families who might finally get answers. I think about the general, about whether she believed her own justifications, or whether she just got used to signing forms without reading them. I think about the moment I decided to file that report, knowing it would cost me everything I had worked for. I do not regret it. But I will not lie and say it did not hurt. The hardest part was not losing the career. It was losing the person I thought she was, the mentor who had made me believe I could do this work with honor, the officer who had told me that integrity was the only currency that mattered. She had meant it, I think. She just forgot to apply it to herself. I kept the letter she wrote me when I made officer. It is still in a drawer somewhere. I have not looked at it in months. Maybe one day I will be able to read it again without feeling sick. Maybe not. The truth is, I do not know if what I did made a difference. The review is still ongoing. The general is still in her office, as far as I know. The families might get answers, or they might get more silence dressed up as policy. I do not have control over that. But I know the names are no longer erased. I know someone is asking questions. I know the plaque in the hallway means something again. That has to be enough. So here is my question for you. What would you risk to make the invisible visible? What would you give up to stop looking away? I am not asking you to be a hero. I am just asking you to think about the moment when you see something wrong and you have to choose whether to say it out loud or let it slide. Because that moment will come. It comes for all of us. And when it does, you will know exactly what your integrity is worth. If you have ever been in that position, or if you are in it now, I would love to hear your story. Drop a comment. Let me know what you would do. Let me know what you did. Because these conversations matter. They remind us we are not alone in this. They remind us that the choice to speak up is never easy, but it is always worth it. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories about the moments when everything is on the line and the only thing left is the choice to do what is right, stick around. There are more where this came from.